What is going on, everybody? Sorry for the slight delay there. I got a call from my daughter and I did not want to miss it. So, gonna just get into the slate. And I don't think, we have a whole lot different going on than what we had earlier without some news of, first of all, we have this Corey Joseph is in or out. And it depends on what site you look at, it depends on who you're listening to. We'll tell you one or the other. So, I can't figure out what to do with that information. Um, if he's out and Killian Hayes starts, I'll have some interest there. That's what that would affect for me. I am going to take the same route. And again, I'll throw in my stuff, but throw in the questions during this so we have something to get to afterwards, because I'm going to just go through real quickly my priorities and the way I'm playing this slate. And I'm not playing a ton of lineups. It's a very high volatile time of year. I do like playing angles on games, and I like the Giannis MVP and first place angle. I know people are like, oh, they don't want to play Brooklyn, but first of all, Brooklyn still could end up the 9 and have to win 2 games. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's Brooklyn, they could also still finish the 7 and they'd be playing the 2 then. So people are afraid of 1 and 2. Milwaukee ain't afraid of anybody, unless they rest their players, which they could do. They could, justifiably do that and still have a chance to win. But it's going to make me very heavy on Giannis. I actually, one bet I'll give away for free. I do like Brooklyn in this game, and I'm sorry, I do like Milwaukee in this game. People have talked about, I don't mind the Kevin Durant run back, probably a little lower on Kyrie as a run back against, Drew's probably going to guard more Kyrie this time. He does guard Durant a lot and has guarded him a lot. And I'm not saying that he's done it well. He does, Durant, he's unguardable. But I'm just thinking about things like that. So Giannis is my priority spend up. And then I want the Lakers situation. So however that on both sides, I'm going to be playing a lot of Westbrook. I understand they're probably going to get smoked, or they could be. I'm still surprised the spread isn't higher. Partly because Utah blew that lead the other night. Maybe Westbrook's had a good history there. It's interesting to me. I mean, I just feel like there's an opportunity for like a 65 out of a Westbrook or something, and I don't think he's going to end up even at the ownership that he's currently being projected, unless we hear about something else. So I like the Westbrook Mitchell, who's going to have a ton of ownership. You can pivot over to Conley, FanDuel. That makes a little more sense than it does DK. Feel free to ask about, FanDuel priority versus DraftKings, whatever, all this stuff. But I'm just telling you what my overall builds look like that, basically. That just depends on whether or not somebody comes out with a different starting lineup. It's the time of year where that happens, so we have to keep an eye on that. But that's the only thing that's going to really deviate me, or if someone ends up sitting. The guys, game by game that I went through earlier is basically the same situation, which I don't mind Harden or Embiid. I would prefer Harden slightly now. But again, I prefer Giannis, so that's what I'm doing. And I know that Harden's a lot cheaper than Giannis, but maybe I can find them together in a lineup. I love Trey and Garland on FanDuel. I don't mind if you want to get part of that back and forth. I also am curious, and everybody keeps saying this, like, oh, well, obviously LeVert's going to be in the starting lineup. He's been starting, he's been playing great, he's doing all this stuff. He's been terrible in real life, on and off numbers. They're not winning any of these games. They're losing all of them. Don't be surprised if they make a change in their starting lineup too. As it stands, Moses Brown seems like the obvious value play. I'm okay with that. I'm not overly excited. If I was going to be stacking the first games and not know about that game, it would be interesting to me, because I just am not sure they're keeping the same lineup, and it's important because LeVert and Brown are going to project to be 2 of the most popular plays on the slate. So just keep an eye out, and we probably won't know until after the first game locks, but we'll probably know before. Obviously, we'll know before the second games. But it has me a little bit, off of the Philly-Detroit thing a little bit more, just because I want to know what's happening. I'm also completely prepared for teams to randomly out of the blue sit somebody. One other guy who's going to come up for people tonight and is very interesting, and I don't know what to do with the situation, is Paul George. The lack of ownership versus the number of opportunities he'll get feel like we should be playing him, but I don't think they're going to give him more than 30 minutes. They literally don't have anything to play for, but it just seems like a guy we should get a tiny bit of exposure to. That's the one thing I'm sort of like, God, if people are really not going to play him, shouldn't we at least consider this? I don't know. He put up 57 last time. I know he's not going to do the shoot that well probably most of the time, but obviously no rust factor, 37% usage rate. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't think they want to win this game. I don't think they want to lose either. I just don't think that they have a big stake. I think their stake is, hey, let's try and get our flow down with Paul George there. But if Morris and Batum are out, it's funny because his projections will change. I'm not sure they should, but I don't know. I'm just really, this is the toughest decision of the day for me is, do I want to take a weird chance on Paul George as my second spendish up? That's basically my sort of overall stuff. And yeah, it's not changed a lot. It'll only change if once we hear someone's out or something like that. And I like a lot of other players. Those are just my main guys. Let's see. Hey guys, hey, what's up, Kevin? Nick Nelson has got a question. Any CPEL? I don't know, guys. If it's not a common nickname, am I missing something? Is that a name I should know? CPEL? I'm sure at some point it'll seem like I should, but I have no idea what that means in the moment. So I will return to that once I figure it out, or you can ask again. Oh, Capella. Capella? Oh yeah, look, they're Capella. Yeah, I do like Capella today. Oh, gotcha. Okay, I was just trying to figure it out because I was like, I thought it was like the way it looked abbreviated. It looked like it was like a, like Brolo or something, like cap lower cap. Yeah, anyway, so I thought it was something like that. Yeah, I do like Capella, and I don't mind as a pivot off of Moses Brown if you want to play a Kongwu. If there was a matchup for them to get minutes together, like this would be it. They don't really do it, but it's kind of would be the matchup. I do like Capella. I don't like Love. I don't think you need to try and go out of your way to play him. I'm playing a lot of Brook Lopez. I understand. I think they want to be in their form, and I think this is what I do in big games. I try to wait. I bet on these. I believe in these things, and I just feel like Milwaukee. There's a lot of maybe you only get the minute that Drummond's on the court, but 28 minutes, unless they really just decide to go away with Drummond. And what exactly are they doing that for? Because it's not like Brook Lopez. I don't know. It's weird because if I were them, I would want Brook Lopez on the court, even though he's not that he's a bad player, but Giannis at the fives terrifies me. And even with Portis at the five, it's kind of scary. So I think he's going to play enough minutes. And I am using him as my preferred value over the speculation on a guy like Kelly Olynyk. And I am going to play a little bit of Kelly Olynyk also because he's got the forward eligibility. But Brook Lopez is more of my priority right now. Olynyk can always just randomly go off. Detroit's playing their young guys. They're playing a lot of minutes. They're not playing. I mean, like Kelly Olynyk today is projected to play 19 minutes. Well, you can look on his game log, and it doesn't take a wizard to figure out he hasn't played 19 minutes in the last, 8 games. And in those games, he was mostly projected to play 20 or 21 minutes. And I'm just saying the trends are saying, hey, maybe that's not the case. So keep that in mind. All right, who do I like for spend downs on DK? So as of right now, I do have Brown as being a pretty obvious play. Stanley Johnson's an interesting one because I'm going to play some of him, mostly because I'm just going to go after that game and just pray that it stays close enough. Doesn't need to stay all the way close, just, in 15. Down the stretch too, like never above like 20, hopefully. And I think there's an outside chance that you get a really weird performance, but to me, if there was a spot that Utah was going to play well, this seems like bounce back. Like this seems like could be a hammer. But anyway, I do like Stanley Johnson, but again, there's that concern, which is a real concern. With Stanley Johnson, you also have I can play 30 minutes and put up 3 fantasy points. That's always going to be a concern of his. He doesn't always have to do things like get steals and blocks. This doesn't seem like a great matchup for that anyway, which is how he's going to get there unless he gets fairly hot from the floor, which even though he only made 1 out of 4 threes, overall, that's what he was more part of the offense than we're used to seeing him, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like both those guys I'm definitely taking some shots on both of them, and I'm definitely not overly excited on either. I think Caris LeVert is a very logical play for a million reasons, but I'm just saying, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if it was like the old early lock days and you didn't have this information and somehow they started like they could literally do something weird, like start Love instead of Brown and then start Stevens instead of LeVert and have those guys on the bench crew or something like that. I wish they would do that because Caris LeVert is going to be like 90% owned on FanDuel. He's going to be 60% on DraftKings, if not higher, in the high buy-ins. And I think he's actually pretty good chalk. Like, but if they change that lineup at all, I mean, it's not like he's not helping them. You know what I mean? He's not helping. He just happens to put up numbers where he made some shots in the last game and they lost. Again, they're losing. They need to win. I love Monk. My favorite pairings for the Lakers are, one is going to be a little bit of a weird off the board guy. And that's, well, not off the board, but unowned. THT is a sneaky play. it's nothing recently exciting about him, but he's a sneaky play who's going to be low owned. Dwight Howard's a sneaky play who's going to be low owned. Maybe taking some of these guys' shots instead of Stanley Johnson is a good way to play if you're not playing a stack of this game. I think Howard actually you'd want to play more in a stack, but either way. The other minutes, you could see all the sites have sort of devised them up. Basically, those of you who are looking at any sort of projection site in the 20s for all these guys. And basically, the last time out, I think Stanley Johnson, what was he projected to play? I believe he was projected to play 26 minutes or 24 minutes. He played 35 minutes. So these minutes are not secure. None of these minutes are, but there's upside for all of them. Like every one of them has an upside for their minutes. So I think it's just an interesting situation to take different shots if you're multi-entering, which obviously I am, on all of these guys. I don't think Austin Reeves would make the cut for me as of right now, but if you're playing enough lineups, he would. But I would even get some Carmelo exposure, and I know people are going to do that a little bit, but I think that you really want to try to take a shot on a team that you don't know what they're going to do. It could get blown out, or you could be the one guy who gets hot off the bench and keeps them in the game. I don't know. It's just I just really want to take some shots with the Lakers Utah game. I like that. I mentioned I like Mitchell. I like Gobert as well. I like Conley. I like Clarkson. I don't think people are going to play Clarkson much. I think if this game was in LA, I probably would be saying Clarkson is the play because when he plays against the Lakers in LA, he's definitely aggressive, to say the least. Anyway, that's where I'm at. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're not liking the video, we really appreciate any likes on the videos. I'm going to spend most of the rest of this time we have together answering questions, talking about what you guys think. Maybe you have some different takes than me, and I think that there's it's an interesting slate because it's so small, but you have so many really, really good viable ways to go. I didn't even talk about the Chicago guys. I like all of them. I meant to. DeRozan is a guy who should be probably in your cash game lineups if you're playing cash games, but I think DeRozan's a really good play. Again, very chalky, and I'm choosing to prioritize. I am going to play DeRozan. I actually have DeRozan and Westbrook in lineups together, so maybe it's a bad example. But I have more of Westbrook as a priority because he needs if they're going to stay close. It has kind of has to be him. Even if it's Monk getting hot, he's still going to put up the numbers. I mean, the last game out, he ended up with 32 minutes. He could have played 40 minutes. They just were down by 30 points. And he would have gotten there in a massive, massive way. Anyway, so it's just what I'm doing. I'm not saying it's the only way to go. I mentioned that I like the Chicago guys. I like I think the Atlanta and Cleveland game on FanDuel more. I'm still interested in starting lineups. That could change things. I mean, every night we've had something sort of change. I want to give one last little thing that SaberSim. So SaberSim got some of the ones right. They were more right than so they really liked Sarr. I'll say that about last night, and that was a really, really good tournament play. I got him at 2.2%. I played him in the 777 on FanDuel, and he was 0.2% owned, and he put up 35. I know everybody played Jokic, and Jokic went off, but it didn't matter because you could do a build the other way and I just didn't have all the right pieces. But minimum cost is 35 for 35 fantasy points at 2.2% owned. That was pretty. Anyway, they had that one right. They were Terry Taylor had a much bigger game than anybody thought, but other sites were closer on Terry Taylor. But I did play the Sarr thing because he was exactly projected at 22.222, and that's my lucky number for those of you who don't know. Anyway, that's it. Still like DeRozan on DK over Vooch and Levine. So it depends on the rest of your build because I actually think that they're closer than the ownership leads. Of course, DeRozan is the most logical to score the highest number of fantasy points because he does the most often. There's no reason why it couldn't be Levine or Vooch night. I like both of them. I do think DeRozan's the priority, but if you just have that left, and you somehow have the position eligibility, you just have a forward spot or something like that, I would, if my lineup was too chalky, I would switch to Levine. Otherwise, I would be happy to. I mean, DeRozan is a chalk. I'm okay eating because I'm going to play some low owned guys. But again, I don't also find myself needing to force him in just because the number of these top good plays on the slate are really good, and I really am on the Giannis train tonight. And hey, could bite me, but that's where I'm at right now. All right, let's see. We got what's up, Bobby? Monk or LeVert on DK in the shooting guard spot. The right answer is LeVert, but I will probably have more Monk than LeVert tonight. But Levert is the more logical answer. Monk is you're hoping for the outlier game. I think you try and play both those guys personally, but and also Monk has a lot of there's a huge blowout risk in that game. Any thoughts on Dragic? I thought about him a little bit today. Didn't end up coming up with anything. It certainly seems like we could see a game from him, right? Like if you're going to give all these great defenders to take away Durant and Kyrie, but then I start questioning myself, like, why would I use up a point guard spot on Dragic, and who am I using it over if I like Monk? Those are shooting guard eligibility guys. We like Monk and Levert already. I like Westbrook. So one spot left, basically, on a lot of my lineups. And do I want to do that, or do I want to play Seth Curry at small forward? I don't think that the gap between those two plays are very huge for their 400 difference, even the projections. Well, one is going to be significantly more owned, although actually not that much. Neither are going to be especially owned. Maybe you play Curry. Like maybe I would play Curry instead, just because I like that point guard position the way I'm building my lineups. But I don't think I expect Curry necessarily to outscore Dragic tonight. I think it'll be very close. I think he is more likely to, and he's 5K versus 46. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with both of those things for tournaments. There is a way that Dragic could have a game here. I mean, and there is a way Curry could as well. But they aren't guys I specifically went out to target. I prefer at a little bit more playing some of the Laker guys, or a little bit less playing some of the Laker guys, and taking those shots. But those guys definitely could get hot. I mean, Milwaukee gives up threes. That's what had me on like the Seth part of it, especially. This is the kind of matchup where Seth could go out there and make 5 or 6 threes automatically. That's probably going to mean he's playing for himself. Anyway, I do think you get a little bit of Clarkson into your mix of the Utah guys, especially with the blowout risk. Like, come on, and by the way, probably you can play Clarkson with a certain type of stack, but I probably wouldn't go Monk, Westbrook, Clarkson, Howard. I would probably have like a different who would play in this blowout-ishy kind of game. But it's okay to do with the stack. It's just not what I would do. What are my thoughts on fading the top tier plays and staying in the mid tier? I don't like Drew. He's fine. Levert, Levine. Levert's going to be Levert is the chalkiest play of the slate. By the way, these top tier plays are not like going off that crazy ownership, and we certainly not until we have more information. But I don't know what other information even that is, because I like some of the top tier plays today, but I have no problem. You want to play the DeRozan, and absolutely very viable, very chalky. I think the chalkier way to build is going to be the mid tier. That's just again, it's all going to change when 2 guys get announced out, which we haven't even heard yet or something like that. But that's where I'm at for right now. Let's go, Rody. Let's see. Like Clarkson today, but may rethink since you haven't mentioned. Oh, I did. I talked about Clarkson. If Kes fan, maybe that was before I did. But I did talk about Clarkson. I do like Clarkson. Not recommending him as a good punt player. Pat Will doesn't appear to be. I'm very intrigued by this, because they're all sort of trying to find themselves and work this kid back in. I think there's a very wide range of Pat Williams minutes tonight, and I think like projecting him at 20 or 24, probably 24 would make the most sense. But there definitely is some upside on those minutes if they let him play 24 in the last game. The problem is they have a lot of bodies they sort of made the season work without him. Like if this was like the beginning of next year and it was starting like this, I would say, yeah. So you know what? We actually did get a limit on him. They did announce that was yesterday. Is that yesterday? No, that was an old minute. I think Pat Williams is very interesting. I kind of like it, by the way. You know what? I think I'm going to make sure to get a little very low on Pat Williams. It's not a high usage guy. It's hard for him to get. That's the problem. You get this 3,200 guy, but doesn't really get the usage. I love his game. I swear, everybody thinks I'm nuts. This guy is probably going to make all defensive teams. I think he's going to be like a star, like an all-star at some point in the next probably 2 to 3 years away. But I think he's really, really good in real life. I just think he had a bad injury. All right. Hit that like button, says Rody. I agree. Kesman did agree. Sorry, I always am catching up, guys. Sorry about that. What was the Adam question? Best way to get different on FanDuel one lineup? It depends on who you're playing. I mentioned through all the guys that these kind of questions are great. They're good, like as a way to think for yourself. They're very hard questions to answer because I don't know what you're building. So, do you want like just different? Like is there one play? I said what I'm doing, so that's I guess where I stand on that. There's not like one guy who stands out as like I think fading LeVert is probably too risky. 5,200, easier to do on DK. I think fading Mitchell is certainly viable, but I like him a lot. Yeah, I don't. It's a tough question to answer. The plays aren't like that. You mean one thing? Do you mean what's your lineup build? Like I don't know. I just don't know how to answer that exactly. And it's funny because it's probably the 100th time I've been asked, maybe higher than that actually, on a show, and it's just it's hard to answer, especially when without the starting lineups. Like some guys who are projecting low right now, like if we had no Corey Joseph, I still think people might be hesitant on Killian Hayes at 5,600. That would have been something you could do to get different. I think playing Conley more than Mitchell is a way to get different that I like a little bit. I don't think anyone's going to play as well. I think it's going to be like 10% Moses Brown, assuming he starts on FanDuel. And I think that you can maybe take a shot there. Dwight Howard. There's one way to get different. Play Dwight Howard. Yeah, it's always hard to know without specifics. Like I don't know what kind of lineup you're building. I don't know who you like, who you decided on, who you haven't. So it's always hard to get that one exactly. All right, guys, firing anything more? I'm going to be out of here probably in 7 to. Anybody doing good at golf? I'm not doing. Not a great start for me. I specifically went out of my way. My original lineup, I think I even posted it. Probably was up there. Had Knox in it and my biggest buy-in, and that I sadly took away. So that would have been a nice start. Anybody else doing well at golf, or not anybody else? Anybody doing well at golf? I lost last week at golf for the first time in since the season started or whatever it is, and that's not the way I play DFS in general. So it's been wild. But this week I lost. That means if I lose this week, I'm on a losing streak, which is really bad. Giannis is in, by the way, for any of those wondering. Giannis, it comes to play all the time. The only question is if the coaches try to get him to play less minutes ever. That's the only thing. Yeah, he's going to put up a game tonight. Gabriel or Howard on DK? Ooh, Jay Smooth. Okay, interesting. I'm not overly high on Gabriel, but like I said with those guys, it really is somewhat of a crapshoot. I think playing the speculation angle that they'll want Howard in there to be at least a rebounder who can match up with Gobert, not that Gobert's going to eat them up, is a logical route to go. Like I said last time that he was going to be a bad play against Dallas unless they decided for some reason to leave him in for minutes against a team that doesn't play big and has too many quick guys who can shoot threes like Powell, Kleber. So I didn't understand them starting him against Dallas. I do think if they start him today, which again, we have no idea who they're going to start today. So it's a really hard question to answer this far in advance. I'm leaning more in the way of Dwight Howard. I think that it doesn't matter though, because you can always pivot if there's any funny business in the starting lineup. Assuming they both start, I like the idea of taking a chance on Howard. If Howard doesn't start, that's a much tougher chance to take. I probably would still throw it in to some lineups. Howard just has a much higher ceiling than Gabriel does. Like it's just not even close. But having said that, I just made an argument for why every Lakers guy has a ceiling. So I don't know. No, thanks, Adam. I appreciate that. It's just like if you get the only thing I ever like is like if there's some sort of an idea of like, okay, I like these two. What can I do to get different? I like the chalk. How do I get different from these three plays or something like that? Just makes it easier for me to answer. But I do appreciate that as an answer because if you just want to hear me talk through it, I'm happy to do that. Thank you, Nick, for the kind words. Keegan sucks. I didn't even know Keegan Bradley was playing in this tournament. But I guess it's a good thing based on that. Tobias Harris, where did that question come from? Let's see. What made us like Tobias? Oh, revenge. Is that right? Yeah, right? I'm not totally blanking. Yeah, he was in Detroit. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at his career game log. It's a small slate. We don't need to go cover everything. I'm going to look up his game log and see how his games have fared in Detroit. Now, this is obviously going to be worse because he's got Harden and Embiid on the court to share the court with. But let's see. Okay, let's see. I've only played him once this year. 17-6. That was at home. One games at Detroit, so I'm gonna take a look at last year. 18-6-4. That was versus Detroit. Sorry, I need to add Detroit's. 25-7. Yeah, so he was above his normal production for sure. I don't have all the details of those games with me, but I'm just double checking because I think this is kind of interesting to do. This is what I usually do beforehand. He had a monster one a couple years ago, 35. I think somehow I'm talking myself into a play that was not even really on my radar tonight. I think it's fine to take a shot. I do. I guess I would rather do it on FanDuel than on DraftKings. That's pretty much all I got on that one. It's an interesting one though. Any Kelly O for me? It's fine. Like, you know what I mean? It is what it is. You know what you're getting yourself into. The guy's not going to play many minutes. He could get really hot. Had good matchups before against Embiid in the past. I like the other guys better. Yeah, I want the guy who might play 30 minutes, not the guy who's never going to play more than 18. And he really hasn't. Like, I mean, even over 20 minutes, it's been since January 19th. That's a long time. That team has a lot of guys, and he's not a part of their future, and that's the only reason they're playing right now. It feels like bad chalk-ish. Not like even double digits feels bad. I will do my weird thing where I like to triple pair, like, unfortunately it was Aruba as one, but I did the Aruba SAR thing in some lineups. I like doing stuff like that if I can get to the guys I want. Durant would be the play for me over Irving. Less so on FanDuel, it's a little closer, but I don't want. I mean, Drew is really good at. He's a really good defender. The problem is Drew just as well may guard Durant. Like, you really don't know with him, and they could put a combination of Middleton, and the others on Kyrie. Just seems like a little bit. Why would you do that? You've got elite defenders. Just what they're there for. Yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm at. So I don't have a whole bunch else, guys. There's not a whole lot on this slate until we start getting starting lineups. I kind of like the weird Tobias Harris play all of a sudden a little bit. It's not a guy who I'm prioritizing, but I wouldn't surprise me if he ends up in the lineup of mine. Also, nobody's talked about Isaiah Stewart, right? So I made one lineup on the road, and I swear if I was sitting somewhere, because I probably would not have had what's his name in that lineup. He finished like 20-something in the monster, and I had Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, I was right there with my thinking on that whole night. I freaking part of it was that I'm going to play Isaiah Stewart and Drummond together. Isaiah Stewart was 5% owned, which means the combination of them together, he's 7x or more than that. He put up 37 fantasy points. Drummond put up 36 or whatever, 35, whatever. He's 5.5x or 6.5x. And then Luka and everybody else was getting there. Even Westbrook kind of got there in the end because he was like 80. What was he, 88? So it wasn't great, but it was like fine. It was 5x at least. As my worst other guy. But the Dorian Finney-Smith combo just didn't quite work out for me. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, Isaiah Stewart is definitely an interesting play tonight. The problem is that I would like to like Kelly Olynyk at low ownership. So maybe that is like, I guess on FanDuel, you are going to get slightly lower ownership. This is an interesting one to talk through real quick because it just doesn't make sense that this many people are playing him. I'm sorry, it doesn't. I mean, he had 8 assists against Brooklyn the other day in 16 minutes, and he still only played 16 minutes. Like, where is the upside in minutes and out without this incredible production in short time? It's like, I guess this is a better slate for a Zach Collins type, and that's what this play is. But part of why it looks like a good play also is that Embiid could easily get Stewart in foul trouble in two seconds. They're not going to play. Are they going to play Olynyk or Livers? Like, I don't know. It just I don't like the situation with Olynyk. I'm going to end up with a little bit of him, and I feel like I should take a harder stand and be a little bit against it. I'm very, very torn on that one. Looks like that's – I actually – just to answer the specific about FanDuel, the way it's built, I actually don't like him as much because I do think Carmelo has a ceiling for 4,100. And I don't – as much as there's talk about this players are going to play for pride. Like if he can get a little heat check action going, they don't lose by 1 million. You might see him out there for a bunch of minutes. So I like the idea of taking the upside of Carmelo's minutes. Now, does that mean like is Carmelo a better play than Olynyk? For me, that makes him a better tournament play. But certainly we'll have some of both. Don't like that I'm doing it. It's not the kind of play that I like to make as chalk. I love making it when it's not chalk and there's a logical reason for it. There's no logical reason for it tonight, except for the foul trouble of Stewart. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it for us. Really appreciate all the things. Please like before you get out of here. We really appreciate that. I'll be in Discord if anything comes up. I'll answer questions. We'll talk about some things. People were a little less active. I know we're getting less people in the NBA this time of year because this is the way it goes right before the playoffs. It's like it's just so hard to do, so no one wants to do it. I'm saying that there's some edge in it. We didn't nail everything last night. Like I really didn't. I had a terrible night DFS wise. I got all my bets right. I just got the wrong guys in my games. The Houston. I talk about how I love Porter, and then I don't play him except for 25%, and that should have been probably 50. I mean, it's I just didn't get enough of that. Too much Tate, which everybody did. That's that nonsense. But anyway, let's do better tonight. We appreciate you guys. Thank you, Sam Stu. Thank you to everybody else who was here and all the comments. Good luck tonight, and let's make some